They'll just be quoting scriptures. It's like they're peeling the potato. Could you imagine if the modern day U.S. military decided we're going to parade the remains of George Washington into battle with us in this funeral procession guarded by Navy SEALs, and we'd call it the Sound of Freedom or something like that? A series of very intelligent but far too brave people decided it would be a bright idea to edge the core of a nuclear bomb. I am Isyander.
And I am Koda.
And today we're going to be continuing with the Sisters of Battle. Last time we covered how they came to be and a little bit about the absurd stuff they carry. Today is going to be mostly focused on the absurd things they bring into battle and the 6 orders militant of them. These are the ones that go out and do the fighting. Like last time we talked about the ones that don't. These ones do. These are the ones that you will see the most models of, the most artwork of, just because it's wargaming.
It's a war game. You're going to see most of the war characters.
Yeah, it's not like a dating sim, which I'm surprised there isn't one yet, but somebody's probably going to make it.
What are you doing with your bolter, Space Marine Chan?
Stop it. Bad. Starting with the entire reason the church is even allowed to have an army, it's the man-at-arms rule. Basically, everybody with 2 eyes recognizes that concentrating that much power under a church, or anything really, is not a good idea. So the way they broke it up was saying the church cannot have a standing army anymore, with the specific verbiage of they can no longer have men-at-arms. That's the verbiage, men-at-arms.
I can see what they're doing here.
However, I suppose even in the 41st millennium, some lawyers can still be abject idiots. And somehow this contract, whether it's because they didn't read it through, it was a deliberate loophole, or they somehow forgot half the variation humans come in, there's no ruling that says they cannot have women at arms. And so the sisters got to stick around. And that's the whole reason they still have a standing army to this day.
Because there's no men at arms, but...
Well, and also part of it is it could have slipped through on purpose, because the sisters, at the end of the day, it goes like Big E, church, and then their various orders. So if the church were to try and tell them something that contradicts Big E, they're going with Big E every time. So it's kind of like an internal check and balance. The problem is Big E's stuck on a throne, and anybody who gets near him gets mentally sandblasted. So it's kind of hard to tell.
It's very hard to tell what he wants, what orders he's giving.
But it's possible, and honestly, it seems far less dense that they just didn't forget women exist. That one just seems more believable to me. But there have been some stupidly written contracts.
It's very funny to think that the ecclesiarchy just forgot that they exist.
Yeah,
funny,
exactly.
Stupid but funny.
And from here on out, there's 6 orders, right? And there's a bunch of sub-orders, but like there's the 6 big ones, and each one has like a saint. One of the first original 6 sisters who got to see the emperor, and I'm going to say this a lot, got martyred, pretty much. It's almost a prerequisite. Only one of them didn't get martyred. The rest did. It was brutal.
It was, yeah.
And not at the same time, though, so there's that. And also, the definition of martyr gets stretched thin, let's say. But these 6 not only got to see the emperor, but they really they went on to embody what their various orders would take after. They became the model, kind of like the blueprint that they take after, because they were just exemplars of, truth, justice, and enjoying your job a little bit too much. I get it. The emperor told you to go deal with the heretics, but you should not be smiling as you force feed them phosphorus.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
After our first episode, I saw somebody postulating in the Discord about a specific sister of battle who was so enthusiastic about her job that she ended up accidentally starting to worship Slanesh.
Oh yeah, a few of them have fallen. That's something I didn't touch on last time, but a few of them have fallen. It's not impossible. It's just really hard. The first of the 6 orders, though, these ones are the poster girls. If you look up any art for the sisters, it's usually the ones from the Order of Our Martyred Lady. Their saint is Katherine. Like I said, none of them made it to 40. Like, none of them made it to the modern day. Not one. Katherine, however, is the closest. And you'll see why in a second. Her legion wears black and red in mourning. At first they were wearing black to mourn the passing of St. Katherine, but then in the Battle for Armageddon, which is such an incredibly cool name for just a thrashing, they started wearing red in honor of those that were lost there.
What was in Armageddon?
Pretty much. They lost half their order on Armageddon.
It wasn't Armageddon.
Yeah, well, no, that's the name of the planet. Yeah.
How are you going to name a planet Armageddon and then walk willingly into a battle on that planet?
Well, the thing is, they were surprised. It wasn't, oh, we're going to walk willingly. Orcs appeared.
They were surprised
Yeah.
that the planet that they named Armageddon was going to have something terrible happen on it.
Yeah.
Maybe the Imperium is just stupid.
I'm sure there are towns out there named, like, Crater Lake, for example.
Well...
Come on.
Oh, well, Crater Lake is called Crater Lake because it is a literal crater.
Yeah, but you're asking for a second one. Like, come on. Anyway, nothing shows off how deep in mourning they are for all those that have. Oh, also important thing, they don't just mourn their sisters; they mourn anyone. As long as you died, for like the will of the emperor, whatever that is, you will be mourned by them. And nothing shows us off better than the fact that they bring into battle the triumph of St. Katherine. I told you, she's the closest one to making it into 40k. This is a funeral procession for their the martyred lady, St. Katherine. And they bring this into battle with cherubs floating all around it, carrying scripture, and 6 sisters guarding it, each representing one of the original saints. And then in the middle is a sarcophagus carrying the remains of St. Katherine. Apparently, if you get near the procession, you can hear the saint's heartbeat start back up. And it is so... when this thing appears in battle, the sisters will not lose, effectively. I mean, they could in theory, they have not yet.
That's a very powerful relic right there.
You have no idea. Each sister's carrying one thing from their saint. Like, for example, the one representing St. Katherine has massive sword, like called the Martyr's Sword, and carries St. Katherine's shield. And so that's the one you got to deal with if you want to get near the procession.
I think
that's hard.
When I was doing
it's like twice the size of her body too. Like
it's a huge shield.
It's a massive weapon.
When I was doing the editing for the first Sisters Battle, I was trying to find art for St. Katherine. I'm like, oh, there's this cool art. She's got this big shield, big sword. But why is she dressed in black? They shouldn't be like that. Oh no, she's in the casket behind this Sister of Battle. She's I see.
That is exactly right. Yeah. It's so cool. It looks so genuinely hard to paint. I think it's probably the hardest model to paint out there. And I don't know how people transport that places. Because people travel for tournaments. I can't fathom how you'd get that somewhere in one piece. I don't know, but they manage somehow, consistently. Beyond me.
Very carefully.
It is completely absurd. It would be, could you imagine if the modern day U.S. military decided, we're going to parade the remains of George Washington into battle with us in this funeral procession guarded by Navy SEALs, and we'd call it the Sound of Freedom or something like that. That would be the most intimidating thing ever. Because the perspective there, because that's a one of one. You're not getting that back if it's lost.
No.
So the entire perspective is either we're leaving this battlefield by being the only one standing, or we're going wherever the corpse went. And they're okay with whatever happens. It's so metal. It's so metal. It obviously doesn't get used anywhere near as often as, you would think. Just because it has a model doesn't mean it's on every battlefield, but it does get deployed occasionally. And again, the fact that it's still around means that it hasn't been lost yet.
Which is good, because that would probably be devastating.
Yeah, that would be devastating. However, even if the triumph isn't there per se, the Order of Martyred Lady are always present, pretty much. they're the Where's Waldo of 40K. They take losses all the time. And so usually, whenever there's Sister of Battle art or Sister of Battle, like Sisters of Battle in battle, you're going to see the Order of our Martyred Lady. And even if they're not there, Saint Celestine, one of the, I'm not going to say the only living saint, but one of the most powerful living saints, shows up at every major battle. So by technicality, there's always a Martyred Lady in a major battle. So they will always be there. They get a ton of exposure. They are very tough. And they kind of give off the vibe of Ultramarines for the Sisters, where, yeah, there's all these other legions, don't get me wrong, but Games Workshop has their favorites. We can tell, there's only so much blue you can shove into everything before we start to catch on.
I've seen so much blue. I thought, before learning about like a lot of Warhammer lore, I thought every Space Marine was blue. I thought that was just stock Space Marine.
Nope. Well, I mean, if you look at their website, I don't blame you. That Ultramarines get a ton of exposure, and I love Ultramarines, but it's a bit much. They fall into that category too for Sisters. However, they've kind of earned it. I don't usually like quotes, but I found this one by a member of the Martyred Lady that is just it distills exactly who they are in one. I'll just read it. Even if you are able to kill me, heretic, my soul shall become like fire. I shall be taken up by the Emperor and shall blaze with his divine light, forevermore guiding the faithful, lending them my strength until you and your cursed kind are scoured from existence, if you are able to kill me.
It's that if you are able to kill me.
Yeah, there's so...
That final line just makes the whole thing.
Right? They are so infinitely quotable. They are pretty much everywhere, but they're not the first, per se.
Not the first?
No, the first order goes to the Order of the Ebon Chalice with their sister, Alicia Dominica. She was the one who was in charge. Like, if there had to be... They weren't in charge, per se, but she was the one in charge of those 6 sisters.
I get that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I get what I'm picking up what you're putting down.
And she was cool enough. This one isn't even my opinion. This is the Emperor's opinion, so you can't debate it. She was cool enough. She was cool enough that when they went in to have tea with the Emperor, she got to keep one of the cups. Yeah,
aww.
It's that.
It was her birthday. The restaurant let her keep the mug.
Basically, it is. It's funky. It's called the Grail of Ages. It's that Ebon Chalice that they're named after, and it's filled with something.
Some mystery fluid.
She would spill a little bit of it onto like a battlefield. She'd walk into a battlefield.
Oh, she's that gal.
No, yeah, she'd walk into a battlefield carrying it, and she'd spill like a little bit onto the battlefield, and every psyker on the planet would have their mind shattered immediately. Or she'd like spill a little bit less, and the Emperor would sunder an army with a word. Nobody knows for sure what was in that.
That's significant.
Right? Nobody knows for sure what was in that. And if you try and find out, the Ebon Chalice will disappear you. There are scribes who've tried to write about it, set on fire.
You'll get sucked into the chalice and it'll turn you into more of whatever is in it.
Right now, the best guess as to like the details of it are in Magnus's book. That's one of the few they haven't been able to burn yet. And they're trying. It's not for lack of effort. So it's so weird.
She's like the one enemy from Darkest Dungeons, tempting Goblet, and then all of your characters just go insane.
Exactly. The only people who know what it was are those who are the highest rank, and even then they only get a fraction of the knowledge. Those who are the highest rank in this order. Alicia Dominica herself. Oh, and obviously Big E, because he sees all from the Golden Throne, yada, 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 and yada, yeah.
He's the guy.
Yeah. Most of your time is spent on Earth actually guarding it, because right now, with the massive line in the sky, chaos can just appear anywhere they want, including like right near Earth and in that wider system. So that's what they spend a lot of their time doing. Their representative in the Triumph of St. Katherine carries a simulacrum of the chalice that isn't quite as insane as the real thing, but it will still, and I quote, rack your body and mind with physical pain and anguish as both are eroded into oblivion by the waves of radiant energy it puts out.
Frightening.
It's They're running around with a demon core and a screwdriver, effectively. And if you know, you know. That's effectively what they're bringing in. Actually, no. I'm not going to gatekeep. The demon core is such a fun story. It's super compressed version.
They're running around. I love that.
It's true. It's super compressed version. A series of very intelligent but far too brave people decided it would be a bright idea to edge the core of a nuclear bomb with nothing but your left hand and a screwdriver.
And a short wall of bricks.
Yeah, and it's worth a read. Long story short, a hand slips millimeters. I mean, this is you could have sneezed and this happened. It slips millimeters. The two sides touch. Unbearable heat happens. A bright blue light happens. They're able to separate it. Immediately dead. There are. I'm not exaggerating. In 10 seconds, let me finish. In 10 seconds, they went from being living people with a future to neat. I just died. There's no debate. Like, my hand slipped. I know the consequences of radiation poisoning. I saw a bright light, and now it's over. I'm just a corpse looking for a plot of land. That's all.
See, I think the hugest part of that story is the fact that there was one scientist in that room who grabbed the demon core with his bare hands and split the two halves apart. Mm-hmm. And then he said, everybody drop everything metal out of your pockets and stay where you are. And he spent the next 24 hours calculating their distance from the demon core to figure out how long they had to live.
It was the guy who stuck it together.
I thought it was a different guy.
No.
Oh, damn.
Because he was the one who was, doing the thing, and then it slipped, so he undid it, and then he knew he was obviously dead. He
was behind like a thin layer of sandbags and a hole in it for the screwdriver.
Yeah, he knew he was dead, so he was like, well, what can I do with the remaining, 9 days? I don't know if my memory is that good. It could be, more.
I think it was 7.
Somebody in the comments will let us know that I'm inevitably right. What else am I going to do with these 9 days but try and help the people who I got into the situation? So that was really cool of him, but way too brave.
Oh, extremely too brave.
Way too brave. That's what they're bringing into battle. It's very terrifying stuff, and they're just effectively juggling it around in a funeral procession. There's a reason that procession's still intact, is what I'm going to say. It's very well guarded. Dominica, though, like I said, got martyred. She was offed by a lucky shot.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
There's no two ways about it. A lasgun just hit her in the heart. That was it. There was no pomp, no circumstance. Katherine was killed by a witch cult. She got the proper saint treatment. Dominica just got shot. Which, to be fair, she is only mortal.
She just got shot.
They are all mortal. It does you can only take so many bullets.
With a lasgun, which means that was either a chaos cultist or...
Could have been friendly fire.
Friendly fire.
Literally just...
I don't know which
critically failed.
I don't know which one's worse.
It's so unfortunate because
a jobber enemy or some idiot on our team decided to go boom.
Oh, that poor sod is not making it back home. The moment they figure that out, the moment that line of fire is traced, done.
He's done.
You're done.
He's done.
Either way, it's very odd that such a big figure would go that way. It's always been odd to me, but c'est la vie. She got off light, though, compared to Saint Lucia.
Saint Lucia.
She got... This one's ripped from an actual saint, Saint Lucia, I believe. I think... Somebody's going to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But either way, Saint Lucia got it terrible. Her demise was so bad that her order walks into combat with degloved hands. Oof. Just to feel a little bit of that.
No, thank you.
Yeah. The Order of the Valorous Heart are grim, and St. Lucia got proper martyring treatment. I mean, the eyes out, and then, wonderful sound effects.
I hate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and then she was forced to sit there and listen as thousands of regular people were tormented before they passed, and she just sat there and firmed it in silence. And in that mix of other people were, sisters from her order, but so they didn't want to make her pain go even longer. So when it was their time to be tormented, they just firmed it too, because She couldn't see at the time, obviously. All she could do was hear. And so they thought if they heard, the screams of her own company and stuff, that would be what would do it. None of them broke that day. No matter the horrors they faced, they all firmed it silently until they eventually succumbed to the hours of torture. The hours of torture. When word got back, she was basically immediately canonized as a saint, just off that alone. And they were fairly penitent before this. Lucia was the youngest to see the Emperor in all his glory, and it really affected her. She actually, hold on. I'm going to say this with medium chest, but I think she may be the youngest person ever to have seen Big E in the chair. Yeah, she was fairly young when it happened. Either way, she was deeply affected, and she felt like it was the sisters' fault that it was allowed to get this bad, because it kind of was their fault. It was allowed to get this bad. So she and all those who followed her had this sense that they need to atone. So if you take that foundation and pair it with a slow death at the hands of the heretic, well, you get an order that is mean. That is mean. They will refuse pain-numbing medication because they see pain as a way to experience a fraction of what Lucia went through. They will refuse non-essential medical treatment. They will need an amputation, and they'll be fighting you over it. They'll be debating you over it. They don't care. If they're scarred, that's a good thing. If you know that you can have a cut on your hand and it's not lethal, but if you don't bandage it properly and take care of it, it will scar really badly. They're fine with that. They do not care. And if there is no enemy nearby to inflict these scars on them, they'll resort to self-flagellation, holding their hands in fire, and or just rubbing a chain sword along their bodies.
Just
yeah,
for fun.
If nobody's going to I need to be scarred, and if nobody's going to do it, I'm going to do it. That's okay. Yeah, they deglove their hands that way, specifically their firing hand. That way, every time they squeeze the trigger, they feel that pain. Yeah, it's they keep it freshly peeled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this to see how far I can mess with you. Yeah,
no.
Yeah, so it's a daily kind of and they have scriptures they'll say while they do it. I believe there's 555 of them. So they'll just be quoting scriptures. It's they're peeling the potato. Yes. They...
Icky.
It's the most 40K of the bunch. It's terrible. They also fight in a way that prolongs pain because they won't just charge at the enemy. First, they'll cut off the supply lines. Then they'll close off any avenues of escape. Then they'll slowly get the food, the water. It's just death by 1,000 cuts.
Oh, they just want the enemy to feel like a rat in a trap.
Yeah, exactly. No. They know they can withstand pain. Can you?
Oh,
that's the question.
It's can you stand an ounce of what I get?
Exactly. Can you deal with being stuck on a backwards planet for weeks with no way out, no food, no water, while these mad women are just slowly descending upon you? Every time you fire on one, if you don't down them, they just get back up and keep going. When you look at the art for this episode, it's they are very serious.
They get knocked down,
and they get up again. They also are horrific to assault because, again, they can withstand. They don't care.
They get knocked down. They get up again.
If you siege them, that's fantastic. I'll be here all day. I know how to do this.
I'm going to bring them down.
Yeah. It's like that one scene in the Terminator, when they blast the whatever simulacrum he's using to look like a person clean off, and he just glares back. That's basically how they behave. Where it's you could shoot off very vital portions and they'll just glare back at you and keep going.
Just turn around and go, Mm-hmm. You gave me a new idea for you.
Exactly. Their faith strengthens in times of hardship. Obviously, they find comfort and solace in the rounds from their bolters and as missiles are being fired. That's when they can hear St. Lucia's heartbeat, apparently, and they'll just be singing hymns the entire time. They are stuck in the dark half of the Imperium, like a lot of sisters are, and they're doing fine.
They're doing fine.
They're just holding.
This is just what they're used to.
Yeah, exactly. They are still able, and actually, they don't. Unlike most sisters, they don't mind this at all because they've been cut off from the Emperor's light. They can no longer see it. And their response is, good. Our saint lost her eyes, she was blinded, and she could still hold faith. We shall do the same.
They're thriving. They're in their element.
Kind of. really, they're fine.
They're in their element right now. They're doing great.
However, it is now time for a word from our sponsors.
A word from our sponsors.
Me.
Us.
I'm joking. It's you, fantastic people. I'm not here to sell you anything other than more of what you already love. I see all you people in the comments, in the reviews on the audio platforms, all saying you want more episodes. Well, there's actually twice as many episodes. We upload 2 every week. One half goes to Patreon, and there's a massive backlog. So for those of you that have already binged everything and want to binge more, there's actually twice as much just on Patreon. And you help get to support the show. So head on over to patreon.com/Isyander Koda, and thank you for those of you who are already there. You guys are amazing. You're the only reason we can keep producing this. So thank you so much. Still thanks to those of you here, though, on every platform. Thanks to you binging all of our stuff, liking, commenting, subscribing, all that stuff that I don't mind, but like it's the only language the algorithm speaks, frankly. So thanks to you guys doing all that stuff the algorithm loves, liking, commenting, subscribing, binging, all that stuff. We have completely been shattering every goal we set. Pretty much every time we put out an episode, it's outdated within a week or 2. So now I'm going to make you work for it, and we're on the crusade to 100,000.
100,000.
Yes, that's where it's going. We're already halfway there, and with the way we move as a group, it's a foregone conclusion that they'll need to mail us that plaque.
We will become the Warhammer 100,000.
Yes. And thank you, as always, for all your support on every platform. We're currently, it's insane for me to say this, we're currently the number 2 podcast in the UK in our category, number 3 in Australia, and top 10 in the US. So you can already guess who won the fracas just off of that. You can already, the UK did their part. The UK did their part. I don't know where everybody else, Australia did their part too.
Australia did do their part.
So you guys are all amazing. Every single one of you doing your part. Thank you so much. And speaking of doing your part, last call, Assassinorum versus Inquisition. You know the rules by now. Comment which one you want to see. I don't want to see anybody shocked by the winner. You've had your chance. You've had plenty of time. Make sure your voice is heard either in the comments or in the reviews. That's all. And now let's get back to the sisters who never leave any comments. It's the Order of the Argent Shroud.
The Order of the Argent Shroud.
Mm-hmm. These gals they're one of my personal favorite because they deploy a school of thought that I heavily ascribe to, which is zip it. It's shut it. Shut up.
Shut up.
Yeah. They want their work to do the talking. They ascribe to this so much. Their saint, who has one of the coolest names of them all, by the way, Silvana, has no quotes surviving. No, we don't know anything she said.
If she said anything.
All we have are what she did, and that's what carries her legacy. It's so cool. It's so cool. Despite being dead silent all her life, I'm sure she spoke, but we just don't know what she said. Silvana was one of the kindest living sisters. She was a saint before she got martyred. Who'da thunk? And she which is quite an accomplishment. A lot of them became saints after martyring, not before. She was one before.
So she was a living saint for a little bit at least.
She passed due to an assassination, which still remains unknown to this day. The guess is, could it be Alpha Legion? Could it be a Randy? Could it have been meant for Dominica, and Silvana, being who she is, just firmed it? It's not. We are not sure. I really like that last one, though. I'm biased, I'll admit it, but I love that idea.
It was that one guardsman who got, what was her name?
Oh, yeah. God, that guardsman. Imagine if that guardsman took out a third of the important sisters. Sisters fans would be in arms over that. That would be the best writing twist a G-Dub could ever do.
This is one guardsman took out both of them.
Yeah. To make things worse, her bones were then rattled because somebody just took them.
Oh, they got rattled.
Mm-hmm. They were resting, and then somebody came in and just took them.
That's disrespectful.
Right? All they have that remains of her is her bones left the silvery imprint on the shroud that she was laid on.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
And nothing. There's no words of hers that made it to the modern day. No remains for them to worship. So all the future can judge Silvana by is what she did. And she still measures up. I mean, the person representing her in the Triumph of St. Katherine doesn't carry a weapon like the others. She carries a fraction of this Argent Shroud, and she reads everything Silvana's done. And this can go on for the entire battlefield. It's that long of a list. And as she does it, you can see the ghostly visage of her appear.
Just inspiring the troops.
Do you see why the sisters go berserk when this thing arrives? Any one of those people guarding it would be enough to throw them over the moon. There's 6 of them here and the bones. Like, also, I'm so surprised Trajan hasn't stolen that thing yet.
That would be so upsetting.
That would be so funny.
I think they would give up.
No, they wouldn't. But yeah, so Show Don't Tell is the name of the game with these ones. If you couldn't figure it out, I'm sure you did. They still move in silence to this day, actually having a bit of a habit of not listening to orders. Like they'll appear, go left, and they'll just silently go right. But they'll hit so hard, so precisely, and so well that right was a better call. So you're like, oh,
well. Oh, whatever.
That's unfortunate.
I'll just let them do what they do.
No hymns, no litanies, no prayers on the battlefield. When one of their fallen...
Well, I mean, it's the Sisters of Battle, so I kind of assumed there were no hymns.
Oh, not those kind of hymns. Usually there's a whole process and procedure when a sister falls in battle. They just drag them off. And then they're shown for like a few days, like their saint was, and then nobody knows what happens to them. The Argent Shroud's not telling. Yeah. They're so cool. And with the universe split in half, they actually lost something like 80% of their forces.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Which is a brutal number, because apparently when the Lion was doing the whole thing, splitting the universe, it just happened to hit a lot of worlds they were inhabiting. So,
maybe they were onto something. Maybe they were like, okay, it's going to take this path. We need to defend this.
Possibly. What matters is nothing's changed. You wouldn't guess that they've lost 8 and 10, because it's not... They're not, oh no, for the fallen, or any cries like that, or for X planet, or, for the guard broke before, that kind of stuff. No, they just fight the same as they always have, without any issue, despite missing that many bodies.
They just keep going.
Exactly. As for those ones lost in the warp, people have been saying and claiming to see mass detachments of forces assumed to have been gone, disappearing again.
Oh, they're doing the Kaldor Drago thing.
Maybe. We don't know. I couldn't find any writings on it, partially because the sisters are so cool, but their writing can suffer sometimes, so they don't have too many. It's not like the Ultramarines where there's so many books. I love them, but it's a bit much. So many Ultramarines books. So that one is unknown as far as I could find. What I do know for a fact, though, is one of them actually got promoted to the council that rules the Imperium in the Emperor's stead. It is, well, actually, it's not in his stead. He's too busy on a reclining chair to do any of that. The plan behind it originally was to get this girl from the Argent Shroud called Morvenn Vahl. She was super young at the time, and she was from the all-silent group. So these geezers were like, oh, we can maneuver around her. Oh, we can politic her. And so they went to offer her the job of, here, take this really high position. And most people would have jumped at it and gone, yes, the God Emperor told me to.
This is my calling.
Morvenn just went, I'll think about it. And then went into a monastery to pray about it for 3 days. Came out, and her first order of business was, you're in charge of this. I'm going to work. No pomp and circumstance. They had fireworks ready. They had a procession ready. She skipped all of it.
She said, let's just get started.
Exactly.
I don't need this.
Yeah, and their plan to put her as a piece on this political game of chess just did not work. She broke the board over her knee. She went into the Senate, full battle regalia, never dropped it once. Very cold, well, not cold, but matter of fact, and very clearly a warrior first, so it would really intimidate these bureaucrats. It would really intimidate these bureaucrats.
She was just ready to do what needed to be done.
Exactly, and... She even got a promotion from Guilliman one of the Emperor's sons, this close to the Emperor himself saying something to you. And she just went, thank you. And then declared a crusade, said, I'm the one running this, and then went off to crusade. I'm not joking. And the funny thing is, she's still getting her job done. She built this army of assistants and other things. So it's like, you can email my office. Why do I need to be there to read an email? I just email them. I will go do what matters. And personally, could you imagine if any world leader just said, you guys can keep pushing paper. I'm going to go to the front lines.
That's huge.
Right? Or even if they just did their jobs. Like, that's huge. That's basically what she is in this massive, usually, this power armor is controversial because it looks like, you know those front carriers for babies that parents put their kids in? Like the dad who still wants to play football, but like, I have to be a dad, so I'll just like
strap the baby in front and keep going.
Exactly. They gave the sister armor, battle armor that looks a lot like that. It looks like they've been strapped in like a kid into this suit of armor, and it usually looks okay. It doesn't usually, but it can sometimes look really dumb. Just it's an opinion thing. Sometimes it can look really dumb. Morvenn's and a few other art pieces look phenomenal. Because there's this one shot, you're going to find it, because it's like the piece of art from Morvenn, and she's like screaming as she's shoving a massive gun into a heretic's just body, and brandishing this massive spear almost as long as her, which, by the way, was given to her by a custodes. Those guys don't share.
They don't share.
And even they went, oh, you're cool, you can have this.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's, I love her. And she doesn't care. She's not trying to win re-election.
She just gets work done.
She doesn't. People will like email her. Your poll numbers aren't doing great. That's fantastic. I liberated 3 worlds. Moving on. She doesn't care.
Are we going for my re-election? Are we doing a campaign fund? Or are we actually doing something? Mm-hmm. Let's do something.
Yeah. It's so much fun. So much fun. She crushes everything in her path. And her faction, the Argent Shroud, is, I'm going to get in trouble for this, in the running for the best armor the sisters have.
Really?
Because instead of the usual black, they wear white. The only one I put higher is the next one, the Order of Sacred Rose. And the only reason the Order of Sacred Rose wins out is because their aesthetic, you'll see why. Their saint was Saint Arabella the Liberator.
That is a long name.
She was the one who actually, you'll see why. She was the one who actually convinced the others to hear out the Golden Boys. You know, like maybe they're onto something. Maybe they can actually hear the Emperor.
Let's just come out quick listen.
Exactly. And she was always the calm in the storm, basically. The eye in the hurricane. She gained the nickname the Liberator because how many people would gather around her because she had this tendency of liberating them from the shackles of fear and doubt. Just by her sheer presence, she was that calming. And it also doesn't help that, it also helps that while she was in combat, she was no slouch. She was a near constant fountain of miracles. You know that I told you, sisters have enough faith where they can parry a greater demon once.
And then that's it.
And then the next one's getting through. Or they can maybe not be burned immediately to a crisp, right? Saint Arabella would look at someone and they'd fold in on themselves. Literally crushed under the weight of their sin.
They would just torsion cannon themselves.
Yeah. She would... If heretics tried to look at her, their eyes would just liquefy. Oh. She was so divine. It was there's that her faith made her such a menace on the battlefield. It didn't feel like a fight, but a foregone conclusion.
It's already done.
The Emperor decided who's gonna win. All she had to do was show up, and boy howdy did she show up. And she was such an oppressive force against evil, she actually broke the curse. She was the one sister who didn't get martyred of the 6. She just vanished.
Oh, she just disappeared.
Yeah, she did not
when
get
the
martyred.
Empire needed her the most.
She vanished.
She vanished.
Yeah, she listened to my advice. She did not martyr herself, instead opting to just vanish.
Hold on to life. cling on to this journey for as long as it'll let you, she said.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where her story kind of ends. Her order may know, but they're not sharing. What they do is just carry on that legacy that she left behind, just putting on display after display of faith in the God Emperor and crushing heretics with it. I mean, there's this piece of art, which this is why I love their aesthetic, of this sister from this order in combat, and it doesn't even look fair. She's floating up holding this imperial sigil in one hand, singing, and it's raining fire down upon people as her armor's glowing this piercing white light.
She's destroying them.
Yeah, it's the power of having God and anime on your side. It's a truly formidable combination, and one that has not gone unnoticed, because everywhere they go, they actually have groupies following them. Just because, I mean, to be fair, you can only see somebody do in so many miraculous things before you go, I'm gonna stick around.
She's onto something.
She's onto something. Yeah. So their missions are never short on bodies. Never short on bodies. They will always have people willing to join them in the fray because they are beacons of the Emperor's light. Like most of the sisters, they're plunged in darkness at the moment, but that doesn't slow them down a bit. Appearing where people need them the most as that beacon of unending light, without anybody knowing how they're able to hear these cries of help.
They just hear them. They just appear. They're just right there when you need them.
I love this order too. And now we have to talk about the last one, because every rose has its thorns. And that's the last one, the Bloody Rose. It's the Doomslayer.
It's a Doomslayer.
Roll credits. We're done.
It's a Doomslayer.
No, I'm joking. How Khorne hasn't just kidnapped these sisters is beyond me when I was reading about them. They're named after the last of the 6 sisters, Saint Mina. She was Dominica's champion and executioner almost. She's the one who, when the Custodes came and said, hey, let's chat, she just screamed and fought one to a standstill for an hour.
She couldn't get past his oily biceps.
Again, there are 2 options there. Either A, she really is strong enough to have a Custodes on the ropes for an hour, or B, the Custodes was looking at the situation and going, if I kill her, this is only going to make things worse. So I'm just going to dodge here for about 30 minutes. And then eventually they'll talk to me. The choice is ultimately yours. Whichever one you prefer, you can go with that.
I like the human slip and slide.
That is really funny. She did go on to, actually this is really funny. She wound up getting martyred like the rest of them by a cult worshipping Khorne.
Ironic.
Right? I suppose he went for the if I can't have her, no one can approach. But, because she was found in a pile of about 20 assailants.
Oh, she did not go down quietly.
Yeah, no. From the moment they join this order, they're taught to just hate chaos in all its forms. And they love melee. They're not stupid, though. Again, how Khorne hasn't gotten these guys is beyond me. They'll fire artillery to the right of the field to push people towards the left, where they're waiting to fisticuff them. They love one-on-one combat. They love chain swords. I don't know how Khorne hasn't brought... This is beachfront property.
Good old melee.
And it's
Nothing
on sale.
Beats that.
Yeah, exactly. They don't sing so much as scream litanies at the enemy, and they are very, 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 very fond of showing you just how well your teeth match the chainsaw sword's teeth. It's a hobby of theirs.
It's a hobby of theirs?
Yes. That's every order of the sisters, though. It's kind of... it's the bulk of what you're going to be encountering, and it's kind of the same song with a different spin each time, but you get the general vibe. Everyone's going to have their favorite. You already know mine. I'm curious to hear what yours are, and thank you so much. The names you've been seeing, scroll by, are our amazing patrons.
Probably for quite a while now.
It's becoming not a problem, but something we need to solve for. This may look like just a news broadcast of names, with like everywhere at some point. I'm not sure, but thank you so much. Keep making this a problem we need to solve. I won't complain. I'm genuinely considering doing like a fake stock ticker kind of thing.
That's what I'm thinking. Is at some point it might have to go through the whole video with just the names running in the ticker down below.
You know, in news broadcasts they have like the stock ticker.
Oh yeah, that's like, always going. Just like, there was a rise by like 0.2% in like, I don't know.
Apple. You can just say Apple.
No. I have to think of something more weird. Canoes. There was a rise by 0.2% in canoe sales this week.
So that might be the what the end of these videos look like from now on. It's a good thing though. Thank you guys so much. And now let us move on to our foreign fracas.
Or international incident. It's a working title. That's the full title.
The winners of which are the UK.
The UK.
And we got off without the long name, baby. Let's go. The fun fact is, whose fun facts are, because these were very fun. The country's got a ton of history, and I wanted to highlight that in this one. Whenever the monarch attends Parliament, a member of Parliament is taken into Buckingham Palace as a hostage. In case Parliament tries to abuse the monarch, they have a hostage. They'll abuse them back. And before they arrive at Parliament, the gentleman at arms also inspects the cellars under the Palace of Westminster to ensure there's no gunpowder stored under there.
Oh, because of the whole remember the 5th of November.
Exactly.
That thing.
And the two houses of Parliament still communicate formally in medieval French when reporting bills and amendments, just to continue that tradition, because they've been doing it for a while. And the monarch, whoever they may be, king or queen, is not permitted to enter the House of Commons at any time. She has to send her messenger, the Black Rod, to go get the MPs and meet her in the Lords. And whenever the Black Rod approaches the House of Commons, it is customary to slam the door in his face. I'm not joking. So this poor dude's entire shtick is, I have to go get these guys.
I get a door slammed in my face.
Yeah, and they just slam a door in his face, and then he has to knock until they eventually let him in.
So rude.
It's so much fun. What do you mean? I love that.
Ugh.
I love that. It's so much pomp and circumstance. There's so much pomp and circumstance, but I suppose it's part of the charm.
Charlie's coming. Slam the door quick.
Oh, dude, if I was a member of that house,
I'd be having fun with that.
I'd be waiting until he's like a frame away from the door and just see if I can blast him backwards. Because there's cameras there now, too. So I want there to be, those historical photos? I want there to be like a photo circa 2024. Isyander shunting the Black Rod back 3 feet.
Oh.
I need like one of the, and of course, it has to be in black and white to make it seem even older than it actually is. So just a photo of me, full suit, slamming a door in some poor dude's face as he's being knocked back. Come on.
I can't lie and say I'd not do the same thing. I do the exact same
Some of the members need to hit the gym to make that happen. But thank you so much to everyone. Thank you in specific to the UK. You guys have been amazing to put us on charts. It's insane to me. And thank you as always for being you. We will see you on Wednesday for the Patreon episode, and then next week, Saturday, I almost said Friday, next week, Saturday, for whoever wins. We'll see.